There we go. Well,
Mhm.
welcome and thank you, Gabby, for joining me on Cup of Gratitude. I always love my Cup of Gratitude calls because it's just such a neat time to connect, learn about gratitude practices, and it just it's always a fun conversation. So I'm going to do a quick introduction of myself. So I am Lisa Berman. I am a life coach, mindset coach, really empowering others to live a life in harmony with their vision and their values. I am a host for Cup of Gratitude live podcast. I kind of created this live podcast as a way of kind of community and connection. And so that is what I love about it. It gives my viewers an opportunity to engage with my guests, and it has really led to some really kind of fun and interesting conversations. Um, and my guest today is Gabbie Kelly. She is from the Profit Mama. She is a CPA and mindset coach. Gabbie, I would like if you can just kind of do an introduction. I think
Sure.
you can do much better service of what you do than I can.
And I'm sure we'll still need a few minutes to get into it. I am like Lisa said, a money coach, profit strategist. I have my CPA. I worked in financial audit for the first 10 years of my career and realized after my two children were born that there was a little bit more to life than the hustle and grind. And with my background in money and numbers, working with them every day and with hundreds of businesses, I quickly realized that women needed more confidence and more empowerment with feeling like they had complete control over their money and their wealth and building it. I think that money is such a taboo subject that in our culture, we don't talk about it. And then it makes it really hard to learn. And we carry a lot of shame and guilt around money. And so I aim to create safe places for women to gather and talk about money, especially business owners. So I help those who are juggling all of the plates with their families and their business lives and their friends and everything they're trying to get done and try to take money off of that plate, off of the worries for them. So I work with clients one-on-one and in group coaching. We meet weekly and monthly, and I love connecting and talking about mindset in all of the ways and not just money.
Right. And I think that that was kind of I remember you and I chatting about abundance and gratitude. And I was like, oh, Gabbie would be such a great guest. And right. And I've not had a guest on where kind of like money has been their background. And it's such a taboo, tricky, tough conversation for
Yeah.
so many. And, and, you know, our general idea is to talk about gratitude. And I think, and within this realm, abundance as well.
Mm.
Um, and just even kind of how it to finances. We had a fun conversation around that a little while back when we were supposed to do this call in January, and I was like, I
I
think the stars were just not aligned
Well,
between what I
we
had.
had COVID in my house, and then you were sick for a while or
I was
something
sick.
happened.
Yeah, I don't. I might have had an yeah, whatever it was. It wasn't gonna work, right? And I think it was a snow day for your kids, so
Mhm.
then that it was just the stars did not align for either of them.
Right.
So, anyways, um, so I I know we talked a little bit kind of let's talk about gratitude practices, Gabbie. I do want to go into kind of what led you to having kind of gratitude practices, but I think it works better to kind of hear
Yeah.
what some of your gratitude practices are that you kind of have in play. Yeah.
Mm.
And some guests, it's always interesting. Some I've had guests that don't have a gratitude practice, and you would never know that, like just because of the way they just are gratitude. So,
Right.
anyways,
Right.
so do you have gratitude practices in play, Gabby?
I do. And they shift with the season and the phase of life that we're in.
Yeah.
Um, but s- the most simple one, and the one my husband and I do most often together, is right before we're about to fall asleep. We ask each other what we're grateful for and what happened, what was like the best part of our day. We have two young kids, almost 4 and almost 6.
Mhm.
And so our days can be go, go, go. Somebody's screaming, somebody's making a mess, or, we're trying to keep up with all of the things. And it often can feel like finally we get to bed and we just collapse. And one of the things that we've made a big effort on is to recognize how lucky that we are that we have, the place that we live and the children that we do have, and so many things that we've dreamed about, and to go to bed grateful and wake up excited to greet our day are two big goals of ours, to approach each day with. So at its simplest form, to ask each other and recognize what we're grateful for in that day from that, previous 24 hours. One that I picked up from a coach, that Lisa, I know both of us are connected to, is writing down some wins and gratitude at the end of the day. And sometimes I get to this, sometimes I do it in the morning with my morning journaling practice. I'm a big meditator. I've done it for 6+ years now. Um, Back before I probably thought that I even needed it. Now with a business, it's required. But I think just any sort of grounding and centering for me is part of my gratitude practice. I don't think you can really have one without the other. Um, and then my work with money and business, um, which maybe we'll get into later, but
Yeah.
has a huge connection with gratitude and abundance. And so it comes up so often that is always right in front of me.
Right, right, right. I'm curious about I do want to tap into that. I'm curious about your journaling, because I'm an avid journaler. So I always love to hear about people's journaling processes as well,
Yeah.
because it so varies, you know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I did not get into journaling until like 2 years ago,
Yeah,
maybe. I type A, oldest kid, Capricorn, all the perfectionistic
right.
things I felt working against me. I hear this from a lot of people, some family, some friends, some clients, um, when I ask them to do some homework and some journaling around stuff, is that they don't know where to start. They don't want to sound, like,
Yeah.
and so once I let go of that and just, I had somebody tell me, you can just start off with, I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
Gotta go from
absolutely.
there, right? But I find myself, if it's the weekend, or, we just had April vacation here in New Hampshire, if I haven't journaled for a while, I find myself craving just to get some stuff out of
Kind
me
of
on
connect.
paper.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. And I use it to help work through. So typically I do it every morning, either before or after my meditation, depending on what I'm doing, if it's self-guided or if it's going through a program. Um, and and I keep and I write all of, like, any workshop I'm attending, any I have a life coach, and like any homework from them. I keep it all in the
Mhm.
same journal. Like
Yep.
it's just filled with notes about all sorts of stuff. And every so often I like going back and I surprise myself with the tidbits I find in there. The
Right.
gems.
Or you realize you're revisiting a theme all over again.
Yes. Yeah. And so sometimes at the beginning of each journal, I write my own like manifesto and what I'm trying to make happen for this year on high level. And I try to every time I'm getting emotionally triggered or I'm feeling like an overflow of gratitude, just some big emotion, I try to consider what the root of it might be. And then I'll note it, and on my next meditation, I'll either kind of dig into it, excavate it a little bit more, and so it helps having that
Routine.
history running list of all the things that I've been working on and working through.
Thank you.
Mm.
You asked a question, how do you have time for all of that? Are you an early riser?
It's a great question. And
It is.
actually, recently it's been a lot harder. My daughter just started kindergarten, so she doesn't go to school until 8:30, but my kids have always been early risers. And so they used to get up, we had full-time care, and they'd be at school, daycare, at 7:30. And so I'd have an hour and a half until 9 a.m. To do all of these things that I'm kind of missing now. And so for the past six, 6-ish months, going on 7, I have tested and played with what to do about it. And so I'm always navigating a new phase of life and when to fit it in. Sometimes I get up at 5 or 5:30 to try to get up before them, but sometimes they can get up at 5:45. And a lot of times it's me asking for what I need with my partner, with my husband, and saying, I
Mhm.
need 10 minutes, I need 15 minutes to regroup. Um, it's better for all of us if I ask for that versus imploding and then exploding.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
right. Kind of naming what you need. And I think that it's such a great point, Gabby, is that right, the kind of those self-care kind of strategies that kind of really sustain us ebb and flow with wherever we are in life. And it varies from time to time. And to just, I think the trick is to kind of observe what's working for you and what's not. We go through phases where we have a good chunk of time, and then we need to like figure out how to kind of
Compress.
condense it,
Mhm.
and so it is, I think, giving yourself that grace to just kind of ebb and flow with it and see what works kind of deal.
Yeah,
I think
I
see.
am. I do feel lucky, right, having my business that I can build it in. But right, but we all have competing priorities. I know that when I succumb to the pressure of, well, I have to get this and this and this done and not prioritizing it, then I slide into a chasing type of energy instead of a receiving
Yeah.
energy. And so then I'm like trying to do what's next, trying to do what's next, trying to do what's next, and instead of slowing down and really settling myself before I start my day. And so, yeah, totally the ebb and flow and testing what happens. With that understanding and appreciation that I do have more control and flexibility over my time because of the way I've set up my business. Uh, it's funny, my husband has said in the past, he works more of a traditional 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and he'll come down. We both work from home. And he said in the past, he knows when my business is doing well. If I don't start work until 10 or 10:30, because I'm dedicating those 2 hours in the morning to my mindset and my practices and all of those things that give me the creativity, that give me the space to think and dream, that give me, the time to ideate over things and, ruminate, just chew things over. And so it's one of those slowing down to speed up kind of.
Yeah, right. Yep,
Right.
absolutely. Was there anything in particular kind of that led you to having a gratitude practice, or did you even have gratitude practices kind of
Mm.
in your earlier years? I'm just kind of curious if kind of what the root of gratitude was for you.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it was in my early years. I think that I've done a lot of work to heal some inner child wounds. However, I've always been somebody who is on, I worked in a public accounting firm. It's not progressive. It's not all feeling, in touch with it's billable hours, et cetera, et cetera. And I started a culture committee because I saw what was happening. It was like misery loves company. And that's
I love it. Yeah. Culture
uh,
committee.
which I got to a certain spot and then it kind of all crumbled. I was kind
Yeah.
of ahead of my time, as it were. And so I've always been interested. When I started my business, I'm an avid reader. I was tearing through books about happiness because I find that people are looking for two things,
Yeah.
wealth and happiness, right? And whatever path or lane that they're on in their business, oh, right? It's like, how do we generate enough income to, replace my full-time job so then I'll feel safe to do my business? Or how do I, um, generate enough to pay off my debt so I can build wealth? How do it seems to be always about how do I feel safe and secure by having enough money. But the undercurrent is I want happiness in my life. And I believe that doing X, Y, and Z, or this amount of money, this amount of time, this amount of health will equal happiness. And what I've found is the thread of all of the books about happiness is the most powerful tool that we always have at our fingertips, gratitude.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so kind of in that searching, you found kind of
Right.
the consistent message of gratitude. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like a tool we always have and
Yep.
something I always knew,
Yeah.
right? And I always could feel, but understanding all of the research, getting to see so many ideas about different types of practices, and knowing that you have to make it your own if you're
Right.
gonna stick to something.
Yeah. Thank you, Gabby. Yeah. I love that culture committee.
Right. At a public accounting firm, imagine going into a lawyer's office and right, similar vibe, and having somebody tackle a culture committee. It was not always welcome with open arms.
No, no.
But now, 15 years later, in that profession, they are up against too much turnover and nobody wanting to go into it. And so you know, lots of careers are changing, lots of dynamics are changing, especially in this remote world. Um, and hopefully a lot for the better. But yeah, it's always been within me. Um,
Right.
and it's just, how it has manifested.
Evolves. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would love to take some time to chat about because I know some of the folks who weren't able to make it here. I think that
Mm.
they were kind of excited to hear kind of tying the gratitude piece to the kind of abundance and finances and kind of how you support your clients or coach your clients around that piece. Because I think, as you were saying, so many people think once I have this amount of money, then I'll be happy. When
Mm,
that's not really, I mean, basic necessities are important, but even without basic necessities, you can find examples of people who are incredibly grateful, incredibly happy. Yeah, so I'm kind of curious, Gabbie, how you kind of weave those two pieces together with your clients.
sure. Yeah. Like I was saying before with the, you know, setting up our business for success and profitability as this inherent desire for abundance, abundance of time, abundance of wealth. And the what tends to happen is the more that we chase it, uh, the more it falls away from us. It's like this escape tactic. Um, and the more we appreciate uh, what we have, the phrase, um, what we appreciate appreciates. The more we take the time and create awareness around what we have and the possibilities that are at our fingertips and the opportunities we can create, the easier it is to see the path forward. Uh, my like little system, I would say education, awareness, and intention. The goal in life for myself and most of my clients, and I'm sure a lot of people who listen to your live podcast, is to live a life full of intention.
Yeah,
And it's really hard to be intentional without awareness.
right.
And it's really hard to create awareness without education. We don't know what we don't know. And so I aim to provide a lot of education around money mindset and money habits. So we bring awareness. When we say the thing, like, I don't have enough time, when we say the thing, there's never enough money, there's a story, there's a root to that limiting belief, right? That we're carrying around with us. And a lot of times we aren't even aware
But even away,
that that's a truth that we've opted into
right.
that we can change.
I love it. And the beauty is that applies to everyone. Like you don't have to be an entrepreneur trying to figure out how to
Mm,
grow your business, that really is something that um, is kind of global in terms of, people wanting more for themselves. So
right.
whether
So yeah,
finding
so I often see my clients coming in with the perception that they're not good with money. They don't know anything about money, and they're looking for somebody to tell them how to do the right thing. Show me how to do it the right way. And in my workshops and webinars, my main message is that everybody has the opportunity to be good with money, and it is entirely possible that you will be good with money. It's starting at the belief that it's possible for you and that you deserve it and that you're worth it. A lot of our self-worth is tied to our money stories. And so the practice of abundance and gratitude is like the opposite side of the same coin. The scarcity versus abundance, um the gratitude versus the hero and victim mindset.
Mhm.
Uh and and so it's like this potion that we use with awareness and intention to name the stories that we're subscribing to, uh and then to see and experiment what works to counteract it, to show us a different path, a different way to move forward, whether it's an act of expansion, of an act of gaining more trust in yourself,
Mhm.
an act of taking action that's aligned with your authenticity, um, or doing some excavating, investigating, and unblocking, and realize, getting into some sort of like inner child wound or shadow, something that you've been carrying around with you. And so a combination of all of those. Um, one thing I often uh, assign as homework is this program called To Be Magnetic.
Mhm.
It's a program about manifesting, but the expansion, unblocking, and taking aligned action is very um, is helpful because it's a program that people can follow along with, and they don't have to feel like, where do I start or what do I do? I think that we've come a long way in understanding like the woo woo, and being more open about talking about manifesting or any of those, I guess, the trendy terms. But I think it's all coming back to how do we live with happiness, awareness, intention, and then keep it going, right? And not just get derailed when something bad happens. That's the best time to use
To,
gratitude
to
and
dive into that. Right, right. It can really shift when you're in that hard space to, and so many times that my guests have been in a really, really hard space, and it was in that time that they then kind of turn to a gratitude practice as a way to kind of uplift them and
right,
move through those hard times. So
right.
yeah. Is so is that To Be Magnetic? Abby, is that a program of yours then, or is that something kind
No, it's like a supplemental program that I often assign as homework. They do have a free podcast,
of,
which
oh,
is
interesting.
wonderful.
Yeah,
And I like send out podcast links depending on the theme of
the
the
topic.
week
Yeah,
that seems
yeah.
like to be pertinent. A few weeks ago it was this duality, that two sides of the same coin that I was talking about.
Yeah,
The answer is the problem. The thing that's
right.
feels like it's holding you back is actually telling you exactly what you need to work on to move through it. And this past week it seemed to be relationships as like a theme of what a lot of people in my sphere had been working on and going through. And so yeah, the free podcast is amazing. It's called Expanded. And then they have a online program that's like a do it yourself, listen to guided
Yeah,
meditation. So sometimes I'll do that, sometimes I'll do my own meditation, but it's great.
right, right, right.
Mm.
And so I'm kind of curious as you kind of coach clients around kind of making that connection between gratitude,
Mm.
abundance. I'm curious about what kind of resistance do you see? Like, how does that kind of play out? Because I have to imagine that's
Yeah.
like a real sticking point for a lot of people, you
Especially
know?
when it comes to money. They're like, okay,
Right.
sure, sure, sure.
Exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
grateful, but I need money in my bank account, right? And
I've got $2 in my account. What is there to be grateful for? Right? Like, yeah, yeah.
or like I have mountains of debt and I
Yes.
just need my
Okay.
business to, expand and
Right.
grow and scale
Right.
so I can,
Yeah.
feel. And part of that is, how do we create those feelings now? The feelings of safety, the feelings of security, and using gratitude for that. Also, the tool of feeling the gratitude for the future case. So when I am paying down, making bigger monthly payments on my debt, when I've crossed off, 3 of my debt, and I'm like working on it and have momentum, when I pay myself for the first time, when all of these things we can imagine, right? Some sort of visualization, or imagine the feeling, some somatics, imagining the feelings of that,
Yeah.
um, and appreciating it now, because we know that we are worth it, we deserve it, we are capable. Um, and it's like opting ourselves into that future right now allows us to make decisions from a place of love, abundance, safety, security versus fear, scarcity. And it gives us a wider range of options that we can then move forward on. If I know that I will be supported by money, what would I do today versus the fear and scarcity of there's never enough money.
Well, and I think that that's such an important piece when you kind of look at something with that trust and that gratitude and abundance, as opposed to that fear, even though you're on that line,
Right.
you can be on that line, like, I don't know how I'm going to do these things. But
Mm.
when you kind of go to that place of trusting in the abundance of the universe, the abundance of God, like whatever it is, it makes it so much easier to problem solve when you're stuck in that place of scarcity and fear. It becomes so difficult to kind of think outside the box on how to problem solve, and then you just kind of get kind of stuck in a very different place. Yeah. Yeah. So
I have a few stories which I think are just simple ways that when we opt into abundance, or this um creating our own reality, often that reality plays out. So the first example is one of my friends and clients who took a trip to the DMV. And usually when anybody mentions the DMV, people are rolling their eyes.
exactly,
The
right.
DMV. And for her, she's like, I don't know why people roll their eyes. Every time I go into the DMV, I get right in, I get in line, I get out, and it's a 20-minute thing. And she approaches the DMV with the
With that,
trust that it's gonna be 20 minutes. And every time it plays out like that, right? Creating the reality of the DMV not being a migraine inducing
a
endeavor,
nightmare, right?
right? And I'm like, right? We can say that's a coincidence, but when the whole world is rolling their eyes at the DMV and you've never had an experience like that, right? The other part is one of my husband's cousins, when he was growing up, right? When you're young, when you're young and dumb, that kind of aspect, rolling into a gas station with $10 in your bank account and spending, 5 on a scratch ticket. He, not that I condone this behavior, but he always would look to his friend and say, watch this, buy a scratch ticket and win 50, 100, whatever dollars that he would need. And like I said, not that I condone the behavior, but when we are so in our knowing, in the belief that these things are just the way that they are, then they can't be any other way. We like approach them and it becomes our reality. And so the minds the biggest thing, whether you're a business owner, whether you're, working for a company, whatever it is that you are doing, the one thing that will have the impact on every part of your life is your mindset, because it is creating the reality in which you're living in. And so gratitude is one of those biggest tools that we always have to address our mindset, um, and to create a world of possibilities and enter into that. Um, but it's like once you know it and once you see it, you're recognizing all of these beliefs in other people, right? That you once took as truth, and now know that um you're taking power back over your own life, right? You're not living somebody else's idea of your life. I don't remember the question, but I think
I don't either, but that's I gotta tell you, Gabby, right. And that's what I love about this is the flow. Like I
yeah.
have my couple things, but it is always like it goes where it goes, you know. But I was, as you were sharing the story about the DMV, and it just kind of struck me that when you, and then there's so many situations where you can go into it with dread or you can go into it with kind of trusting
Yeah,
in the abundance, in the ease of
right.
things. And it's, you know, but when you do that, you like, so if you're here and you go in with this kind of a mindset, abundant, um,
Mm,
growth mind, whatever, you know, all of those kind of positive things. So even if you go into the DMV with this trust that it's going to be quick and it'll be easy and it'll be fine, but it takes you an hour anyways,
mm,
your state of being is at an elevated place so that rather than grumbling about, oh my goodness, you might just find joy in watching
right.
different people kind of come through the
Yeah,
DMV. You might notice the positive engagements of the staff there. You like, you just, it kind of shifts so that even if you're waiting an hour rather than 20 minutes, your experience is still a much more positive
right.
kind of experience. And right. And being grateful that we get to go to the DMV and get our license and now do the real ID so that we can travel so that, you know, like, you know, there's all kinds of kind of
Right. Yeah.
flips in
It's
that.
like when I talk about gratitude in our taxes, people roll their eyes with taxes, right? And when we can shift that mindset into looking around and all of the things that taxes provide for us. Now, there are systemic problems going on, right?
You're
We
not going to deny that. Right, right, right. Yes.
and we can be grateful for the infrastructure that we have, the roads that we have, right? The from local to national
Hmm.
levels of government, taxes provide us with things, and they are, somebody said, it wasn't me, but somebody said it's like a subscription to living in one of the best places on earth, right? And so um if we can shift our mindset about taxes, and I do a lot with taxes and setting ourselves up for success, but if we can shift our mindset about taxes, that's another one of those things that, you know, people are running out the door. They're like, I do not want to talk, right? Like, bye. I don't want to think about taxes. I don't want to talk about taxes. I don't want to look at how much I might owe. I just dread it and fear. Um, and so that's another thing that the gratitude is such a huge tool to say, what does it provide for me? You
Yeah,
know, and
I love that. Sue brought up a great point about kind of
yeah,
recognizing that employees are they're doing their best and
building in the extra time, right? If you're like, I have enough time, then you probably will build in enough time to not speed to the DMV, feel like you're in a rush. You have 12 things planned after, you're going to be late to all of them, right? So you probably would build in the time to relax and observe.
I'm so glad you brought that up because as we've been talking, I was thinking of another scenario and then I forgot it. But it is that one of time and that abundance of time. And I think that that's right, a really worthy one because, and it's all fits into into gratitude. If you can be grateful for the abundance of time and think of it that way. And when you feel like you don't have enough time to get to that appointment, to do that self-talk, grateful for the abundance of time, because how often, I know I've done this, like I'm running I don't like to be late. So I'm running 5 minutes late, and then that story goes in my head, and then I beat myself up, and then you get there, and what do? You have to wait 10 minutes because they're tied up, or you get caught in like you get caught in traffic. So then you're angry and frustrated. But then you get to your appointment and you're not late, or you're late and it's not a big deal. And right, there are times when you are late and it is a big deal, but most of the time you truly do have
Right.
that time, so I think that that's just kind of another, right? They're all kind of tied together, that.
Another a great resource, I don't think I have it up here, um, is this book called 4,000 Weeks.
Oh,
Time Management for
I was going to ask you about a book. So there we go. 4,000 Weeks is a book.
Mhm.
Oh, tell us about it.
The author is Oliver Berkman, and I it, I have what I call 5 pillars of profitability,
Hmm.
and money is one of them, right? But it's also time, it's also love, it's also joy and happiness, and time. And so I'm obsessed with happiness, with joy, with health. If you have so much money in the world, but you don't have health to enjoy, right? All of these things go into what I call living a profitful life. And time, I'm obsessed with time. The reason being because we are in, especially coming from my background, everything has to be billable and you have to work so many hours and you have to, right? It creates this every minute has
Has
to
to count.
productive, has to count. And then we're all wondering why can't we freaking relax, right? And why we have so much anxiety and right? And not enough time and all of this stuff. And so this book, 4,000 Weeks, puts so much language around how I'd always felt about time. And one of the things is that we don't want to do the hard work of radical prioritization, meaning we can do a bunch of small, easy things, right? It's great to check things off, but then we never get to right? We never get to, if you're saying, oh, I'm gonna like take painting lessons, or I'm gonna like read at the end of my day, or I'm gonna do this, the thing that brings you joy, and you never end up getting to it because all of these things add up and you're just like, I ran out of time. When in reality, yeah, when in reality, the 76 point, his is like average, like you get 4,000 weeks, right? But if you're already so many in, then like what are you going to do with 2,000 weeks? What are you going to do with 1,000? And
Love
that
it.
putting that number is like,
Who?
what is actually a prior? And this is where I love it because I'm all about like awareness intention. We want to be so intentional about our time, but we're not actually acting like we want to be intentional about our time because we're not prioritizing saying hell yes or hell no to the
Or
thing.
setting those boundaries, like saying to your husband, I need 10 minutes, or, just kind of all those ways that we can set boundaries so that we can be
Mhm,
intentional about those things that matter most to us.
mhm. And so it's a great read. I devoured
Yeah.
it. My husband actually bought it and got 10 pages in, and then I stole it and read, read the whole thing. That's how it goes, with us. Um, so that's a great a really, really
That
great
sounds
one
like
to
a
kind of
great read.
spur some um time to look around and say, what am I doing? What are my actions? And what are they saying about my priorities?
Right, so it's kind of what are my values, what is my vision, and how do I make choices, right? That's why being
Mhm.
clear about your values and your vision
Right.
helps you make those decisions about what you're going to do and to prioritize
Yeah.
what over what kind of deal. Yeah. So, so thank you. That sounds like a really neat book. I'll
Yeah.
have to go check it out. Sue, do you, I so appreciate your little typing in here, but I do, with Cup of Gratitude, I always want to leave space for questions or comments. So, Sue, I want to be able to, if you have any questions or any thoughts that you wanted to share, please feel free to.
I always get a lot out of, I think I met you, Lisa, on Lynn Niehouse's something cup of
Oh,
gratitude. She
that's
mentioned
right.
cup of gratitude, and I get so much from you. And
It
as you know,
was
I'm
in,
trying to get my daughter to connect
yeah,
with you to do some personal coaching, because I mean,
yeah.
everything rings a bell for me. I think my problem with, I'm trying to use every resource I can to have a balanced life and everything, but then, when your children are hurting and not, like, I've been for years giving them information on meditation and yoga and encouraging them. We've been doing yoga together. And then everything just seems to fall apart. And it's just so frustrating when they won't
Mhm.
like take resources
Mm.
into themselves and look. I mean, it's everywhere. The resources are everywhere. And the feelings are the same with everybody. You just have to connect with the right advice and be able to even handle. I mean, how do you get people to accept these resources and use them for their benefit? I
That's a
don't know.
great
I'm just trying to
question,
lead by
Sue.
example and saying
No,
this works for me, this works for
Right.
me.
right. And I think, it's a great point, Sue. And I think that that is a challenge, is that people can take in information, but right, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And then it's kind of that figuring out um, what to let go of and what to hang on to, because each person kind of has their own process, and we can't control.
Yeah.
Gabbie
It's
can
just frustrating when
assign,
they come to you, what they want you to fix things. They want you to make everything okay, but they're not
right.
doing the work.
Well, and exactly, and it requires doing the work. Go ahead, Gabbie.
So what I was gonna say is that I would definitely suggest that podcast expanded. What I find is that when you don't do the work, you get given opportunities to do the work and to do the work and to do the work. And then when you don't, you get, right, it's the pattern that keeps coming up some until it's something like, I hate to say it, like a rock bottom or
Oh
something
yeah.
that
Mhm.
shocks
Takes
somebody or
them to
shakes
the
them
core. Yeah,
into doing the work. I have friends who unfortunately are going through a divorce, and early, in the past few years, they're like, we're going to go to therapy, we're going to go to this, and we're going to go to that. And never took the action to do that together. And now they found themselves in a spot where maybe it wasn't supposed to work out, but we don't have control. We don't know the path and the journey that is their life's
that
journey,
is
right?
theirs. Yeah,
Um and not, my kids are small, so I can't even imagine watching some big problems play out
right.
versus their 6-year-old.
Well, the six
Yeah.
year old
But
problems,
for
right?
my siblings and for my friends, and just starting to like step outside and say, well, I don't think you could do anything right or anything wrong. I think you're taking actions on the path that you're on and either learning along the way, right? You're not making mistakes. You have lessons that you're learning through, and whether you're taking those learnings and applying them to the next one, you know, you'll keep getting stuck in on this loop
Right, yeah.
until you
Yeah.
realize,
Stuck.
right?
Stuck is the word. Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, the leading a horse to water is, oftentimes I ask my friends and family, are you looking for advice or are you looking to vent? Because
Right.
being the oldest sibling and the coach in me and the mom, I'm like, let me help you. Like, let me fix it. Go do these things.
Yeah.
But a lot of times that's not what they're looking for. And one time my husband and I see a therapist, and she sent us this communication model called the Imago method, IMAGO. And if you're familiar, it's stepping back and trying not to fix things. It's really about listening and asking for, is that all or is that more? And do you mind if I share, et cetera, et cetera. And I think when my husband and I are intentional and practice it, nobody has to say sorry. You feel heard,
Right. You
listened
feel
to.
heard and validated, as opposed to, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it doesn't quell the frustration that I'm sure as a parent, having to see your kids
Yeah.
doing this,
It just gets more complicated.
right?
I mean,
Like, that's
Yeah.
future me's
Yeah.
problem.
I mean, they're 31 and 33, and I thought I was done. I thought I was living my retired life and all that.
Right.
You remind me of my niece.
Mm.
She's a CPA. She did forensic
Accounting.
and
Yeah.
she has 2 little kids.
Yeah.
They're like 5 and 3.
Yeah.
And is working from home now. She worked for EY,
Yeah.
but she went with a women-owned company, and she's working in finance from her home.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Very
nothing
practical.
like having kids to
Shift.
explode and shift your idea of what's important in life. And every time I had a kid, I changed jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eventually, that worked for myself. And yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
thank
good
you.
to look at things from a different perspective,
Different
a
perspective.
different angle. Even like when things are like overwhelming me, sometimes I just say, let me walk over here and look at from upside down or this way or that way. But
let me hang upside down for a moment.
younger people have trouble once they've made a commitment to look at things in a different way or be flexible or let go of part of that commitment and saying, oops, it didn't work, try
I think
something else.
it comes with age, that being able to look at things.
Yeah.
So anyways, so I want to thank Gabbie for being here. This was just such a great conversation. Always a treat to chat with you. And thank you, Sue, for being here. And this will be emailed out. So Gabbie, I will email you as well a copy of the link for this call. And I'm going to hit stop recording.